I'm a partner at Bessemer. We're a venture capital firm that partners with visionary entrepreneurs across stages, from early stage, seed stage companies through the growth stage. We've been really fortunate to be involved with some companies like Shopify, Zapier, Twilio, Pinterest, other kind of really recognizable now brand names that are moving forward and pushing the boundaries in their respective industries. And personally, I've been focused for the past, well over the past year on companies and platforms that enable remote work and are rethinking the modern workforce and what it means to be in the modern workforce. And so, as this is very much the iPhone moment for remote work, it's awesome to be here, and I'm really delighted to be a part of this.
Awesome, very cool. And I'm the co-founder of Contra.com. So Contra allows everyone to work independently. And so when I say independently, I mean as a solopreneur, as a freelancer, as an independent remote worker. So my background, I've been managing remote teams for the last 8 years. My previous startup was in employee benefits, and we had 56 employees with around, I guess I'd say 30% were completely remote across Europe, South America, parts of the US and Canada. So right now, Contra is also fully distributed. We have 3 people here in San Francisco. We have someone in Toronto, someone in Denver, someone in Austin, a few people in Berlin, and a few people in Kiev. So, this is definitely the right time to be doing this. And I'm pretty glad that we've been, I've at least had experience with this for so long. So a little bit about Contra. So Contra is a new professional network for independent workers. So before we started this, we surveyed over 10,000 independent remote digital professionals to kind of figure out, what does it take to be successful, and what are the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. And what we found was that the majority of people found opportunities through their own referral networks of people that they worked with in the past. So we decided to take that insight and create a new professional network and I guess this is how we approach it, a professional network for people that you actually work with. So with Contra, you can showcase the projects you've worked on, but more importantly, the people you've worked with. So it's 2020 and it's really, really easy to assess hard skills, but what's more important, specifically in remote teams, is can you work with other people, and what are your soft skills? How are your communication skills? Like, who are those people that you've worked with in the past, and are they willing to vouch for you? So Contra is really an ideal platform for product teams.
Well, thanks for giving us the overview. I think when I was reading a little bit about you, you yourself were a freelancer at one point too, and kind of came and saw this problem firsthand. What were the biggest challenges? What are the biggest challenges for this community, and how are you thinking about where there's the most opportunity to solve them?
Yeah, so for the last 8 years, I've been an independent knowledge worker. I started out as a ghostwriter for Sony UK, so I was producing radio music for like artists like Rihanna and like Dua Lipa before she got big, and that was like kind of my first foray into being like an independent professional.
By the way,
and then I realized
like we may need to have pivot this and have some songs singing or something.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks. But so after that, I really got into doing like front-end engineering and web development and app design, especially whenever like iOS started getting big and everyone wanted to build an app. And I realized that there's like these massive marketplaces of people like from all over the world. So I became like a power employer on like Upwork, like I guess Odesk and Elance, when they were a thing. .co before it got acquired by Dribbble, and that's actually where I met my co-founder. But I realized that like, especially post-COVID, people are going to realize that having one source of income is actually pretty dangerous. It's really smart to at least have the ability to earn income when you need it. So I like to consider this concept like income on demand. I think digital professionals are in a unique position to actually earn income independently. So with Contra, our whole goal was to actually create that framework. So part of that is the referral network, is like, how do you create a network of people that would vouch for you that you've worked with in the past, where you can find these flexible opportunities. And on the other side, we give people to transact in a way. So you can think of services agreements, contracts, NDAs, IP assignments, all these things are automated on Contra. So in theory, you build a professional network of people that you've already worked with, and then you're able to transact within that community.
That makes sense. Sounds like it takes away a lot of the overhead that, I hear when I talk to folks of just even managing these sorts of transactions and having to deal with well, when do I pay this person? And if they're in another country, like how do you deal with foreign exchange? And a lot of little headaches that, turns out take, even more time sometimes to navigate than actually doing the work in the first place. So that makes sense.
Totally. You think about, you have usually the first step is, should I make a website? And, how do I build my network? How do I find work? And then how do I handle payments? Those tend to be the big things people ask. And, it really shouldn't be that hard. So we kind of took I guess the data that we collected, and we decided, all right, let's just build a framework that imitates the most successful independent workers that we surveyed. And so that's just with a referral network and having that collaborative professional identity. So if you think about the way LinkedIn disrupted the resume, they took a paper, a pretty boring static document, and turned it to this dynamic, ever-growing list of experience and maybe connections that you might know. Contra does the exact same thing to the traditional LinkedIn profile by creating a collaborative professional identity. So it makes it really easy for people who want to work together to triangulate. I think I touched on that a bit before, but I think this is an entirely new approach that's specific to product teams in general. But this actually gives everyone the framework to say hey, maybe I want to save for a house, or maybe I want to protect myself from maybe any layoffs or economic uncertainty. You have these skill sets, you have this kind of framework and this network built in that actually kind of serves as a safety net.
Makes sense. Yeah. And, one of the things I've been noticing is that it's not even just on the worker side that there are these benefits, but I think even companies are going to start to, look for and demand, flexible workforces. And so, on both sides of the equation, I think you're going to see some really interesting tailwinds here. What have you seen so far with COVID-19? Have there been any kind of changes in the way that the community is engaging with the platform, or differences in demand for the product?
Yeah, I think a lot of people who were previously considering working independently are now realizing hey, maybe now's the time to do that. Maybe now's the time to build up a portfolio, start letting my network know that I'm available for these types of opportunities. And specifically with layoffs, people are realizing that maybe my benefits and maybe my well-being shouldn't be attached to one identity at a company. Maybe we should start thinking about work in a completely different way. So in the future, I don't even think it's going to be considered freelancing. I think it's just going to be work. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how, even I guess, companies like Jam make it really easy for people to collaborate on almost in a project basis. So work is becoming more project oriented and more, I guess, bite-sized in just its nature. So more and more people are able to just be pulled into a project, and they can immediately contribute value no matter where they are, or no matter what time zone they're in, or there's all the limitations that were previously kind of set have kind of been thrown out the door. And as all of these apps get better for collaboration, more and more people are going to actually have the ability to kind of be their own business. And it's smart. And I'm not saying that everyone's going to become a freelancer, but everyone is going to work independently in some capacity. And we've seen an absolute explosion in signups and profiles being created because people are starting to really realize that hey, maybe I should consider this.
Interesting. On the work side, have you seen any interesting trends in terms of the types of jobs or work that is seeing more or less demand right now? I know, there are a lot of people here today thinking how should I best market myself? What are the skills that I might have that, people are hiring for? What are you seeing?
So we focus specifically on product teams. So you can think about anyone who works in design, engineering, marketing, growth, or content. And these are teams that typically exist within larger organizations anyway. So I'd say that the largest demand we have so far would be, this is strange, but UI animators, and then also content creators. So people who are doing distribution and growth. So it's been pretty interesting, but that's closely followed by engineering, anyone who works in I guess in a broader sense, growth marketing. So I think, the best way to think about getting started in this type of this, I guess, working independently would to be actually leveraging your network of people that you've worked with in the past and figuring out who those people are and how you can, work with them again in the future. Because typically the best opportunities are found through referrals. We found that sites that are like traditionally like two-sided marketplaces like Upwork and Fiverr tend to be low quality opportunities, whereas the best, like the higher quality opportunities tend to come from people that you've already worked with in the past.
Yeah. I also noticed that, your monetization model, you're not taking, a significant portion at all. I think zero commission of the transactions. And so, these people that are really high quality and can, get referrals from their own network and figure out the right approach to do that, it seems like a slam dunk value prop.
Oh, thanks.
That's awesome. No, I agree. I think, one of the things I've been thinking about is that, your reputation more and more is the currency of, the workforce today, what you have to show for yourself as an individual, less so, even as it relates to a specific company. I think in the past, we oftentimes used to say, oh, well, it was these credentials that came from, more external things like, hey, this person went to XYZ school or otherwise, but more and more today, it's what is your personal portfolio? What have you done? Like, what is the currency that you have that you can transfer from job to job?
Absolutely. Like you hit the nail on the head. That is, and that's what we mean by the socially validated or the collaborative professional identity. It's a whole new way to think about someone's reputation.
So one of the biggest challenges, I'm curious to get your take on, you as a company, I think you started out, you mentioned that you have your totally distributed team. You have people working kind of in all parts of the world. And on Contra, there are people that are, getting hired or working on jobs that, maybe in totally different time zones. How do you deal with the time zone management? That's something that I know, a lot of companies are struggling to figure out. When someone, it's 9 a.m. and for someone else that means it's actually 8 p.m. and they're just in totally different modes of life. How do you help improve the collaboration there?
Yeah, I think step one is just adopting tools like GitLab, Clubhouse, Notion, Figma, things that are inherently collaborative that allow you to communicate in like long form, and also really making sure that everyone improves their writing skills and their communication skills across the board. As you have those check-ins, for example, sometimes I will wait up till 11 p.m. Pacific time to have a call with someone in Europe. That's 9 a.m. their time. And so I just have to adjust your schedule, and you have to be willing to actually make those adjustments. But I think long form communication, asynchronous communication is kind of the key there, and having really, really good just internal documentation of like, okay, so this is how we do this XYZ specific task, and this is the standard in which we hold ourselves. That way people kind of just work in the same directions. And obviously project management software is super, super crucial. We use Clubhouse for our engineering, and we use Notion for our internal management team. So it seems to be pretty well, but we literally use the Kanban style tickets where, you have something that needs to get done, you have a format for that ticket, and then you move it along the pipeline. So I think there are going to be some challenges there, but I think the tools are just getting so good to where, difference. Even this is a great example. Like, we have all these people together, and I think Remo is amazing. I've actually never used this, but tools like this are really paving the way and making it easier for founders like us, and I guess investors like you to connect with the right people.
Yeah, one of my theses though is that a lot of remote teams, what they figure out, because they're forced to early on, is they have to be really deliberate about how you communicate and collaborate and lay down the foundation from day one. Even when you're only a handful of people, whereas for other startups, when you're all sitting in the same room and maybe you're just 5 people, you can shout across, you kind of know what everyone's working on. And it's easy to not put in kind of that process and be less deliberate. But eventually, as the companies scale and hit, 30, 40 people or open up their second offices, like you run into these pain points and challenges and it breaks. And you have to solve the same problems that happen in a remote environment happen at that stage too, when it's hard to know everyone. And so the companies that I think it's a real advantage to figure that out early on from day one, and be able to grow with that. And I've often found that, a lot of the companies that have a remote or distributed team from the start are actually some of the best managed and have the businesses that we work with and have really great cultures. And so it's it's not just good for investing, but also really good for building a company.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the other point I think is super interesting you said is on and maybe we'll see this becoming more and more of a skill that people look for and hire for in the remote world, but is written communication and writing skills. As you mentioned, I think asynchronous communication, being able to document and document knowledge and learnings is something that's really important when you are working in a remote and distributed environment, much more so than otherwise. And so, I'm hearing of certain companies actually interviewing for those skills, and it'll be interesting to see if that does become something that employers place more importance on over time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
Cool. I think we had someone kind of coming in and out. I'm not sure how much more time we have, but in the meantime, if anyone in the audience has questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we can try and get through as many as we possibly can.
All right, looks like it's time for networking, I think. Is that what?
All right. Yes, sorry. I think our session is up, but thank you all for joining. Check out Contra. If I can be helpful, feel free to email me, Talia@bvp.com, if there's anything we can help with.